Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of You're Not Ready for This. Another week, another opportunity. I'm here with my friend Kevin.
Hey Alan, how you doing today?
I'm doing great. I came back from well overdue, vacation. Technically, I'm on
Okay.
vacation right now, but
Oh,
I went to visit back home in Puerto Rico, see the family, and kind of caught up with everything going on back there.
that's awesome.
What you been up to?
I've just been working and playing some video games as usual, so nothing too exciting.
Hey, I
Um,
mean, you got enough excitement as it is with working in IT, huh?
that's it. That's it. I got too much excitement sometimes working in IT.
I gotta say, like we mentioned in previous podcasts, we know each other from working in IT in a previous company, and kind of became fast friends. And we kind of wanted to dedicate part of the podcast today, among other things, like just those stories that we gather along the years while working in the profession. Anyone out there that has worked any IT job knows from going through the motions of graduating from college and kind of getting their foot out there and getting the first job that they could, but not having the experience or the requirements. But obviously, if you do not start working, you don't get those requirements, or you're desperate looking for a job. And while you're looking for that job, also many things happen to you. I don't know about you, Kevin, but I can certainly talk for myself on that regard.
Well, I was gonna say if someone is out there and they're listening and they are really interested and want to get into a job in IT, I would recommend that they stop and look for something different.
Man, it goes as far as being on the university. Like while I was getting my degree, my professor for programming, Arnaldo was his name. I hope he's still alive. Obviously haven't kept up with anyone on that regard, but he used to get to the classroom. He was a very tall, slender man, professional. He always came like he came from another job, with his tie and everything.
Yeah,
Sat down in the front of the classroom, crossed his legs, turned on the projector, put whatever we're doing like variable, like string. We were doing like Visual Basic .NET back then, and he would cross his legs and just go on, man. I should have been a carpenter, a fireman, like a milkman. I don't know why people get into IT, and we were like looking at each other like, if this our professor, after 15 years of working in IT, I'm like, man, I should have been a policeman, a firefighter, a carpenter. I don't know if you get that vibe.
I think we could all relate to that story, or not all of us, but the majority of people in IT can probably relate to that after being in IT for 15, 20 years. So it's it's definitely one of those things where it's there's still aspects of it that are fun, and there's still a lot of accomplishments that you feel when you are able to successfully troubleshoot an issue or complete a big project or something of that nature. But yeah, it's one of those things that it's gotten to the point, at least me personally, that it's wore me down, and it's so difficult to try to keep up with everything nowadays that it's almost like you need to do your IT stuff at work, but then study IT off of work just to try to keep up with all the different technologies and changes that are happening at any given point in time. It's and again, personally, it's not something that I particularly want to do on my off time. I want to try to enjoy myself and do other things.
I kind of goes into that conversation on mindset that, do you really love what you do? And if you love what you do, you wouldn't be working a day in your life. What people kind
Yeah,
of say, but it's one of those things that I can definitely say. When I started this profession, I can wholeheartedly say that I really loved, with a passion, what I was doing.
yeah,
Not that I despise it with all my heart now, but I definitely more cynical maybe about it, and it kind of goes into maybe precisely those experiences that you gather along the way and things that obviously doesn't fit well with you. For example, you being able to create those boundaries of what's your professional life and your personal life. Like, say that you really love this so much, but you gotta spend a decent chunk of your personal time into bettering yourself or just keeping up with the profession. Like, it's not
Mm-hmm.
only IT, you could say the same about lawyers or medicine, like all these professions that are constantly changing, evolving, and adapting to the times. They definitely need people that have that degree of mindset to be able to not only keep up with it, but also evolve and change and adapt with it. Not saying that I came to the realization that I do enjoy my personal life a whole lot, but I, to some extent, lost the love for what I used
Yep.
to do.
Yep.
And it's a shame because I just can look back and remember one of my first serious jobs was on a company back in Puerto Rico. Obviously, not saying any particular names right now, but it was in charge of doing like ATM transactions management, among other things.
Okay.
When you get into that, obviously, it was a help desk job. Well, most likely one of the first job that you get when you're getting into IT, doing basic support on the phone.
Yep.
And it's one of those things that when you start to realize I have like a third shift job, I went in at well, no, that would be a second shift. I went in at 1 p.m. and went out at 10 p.m.
Okay.
It was one of those things that you get into situation. For example, there was a line on the island that was damaged, and no one was able to do ATM transactions or make the recording for the credit unions, and a whole lot of things went down with the system. And you got everyone on high alert mode, and obviously the phones don't stop ringing, and everyone's got issue, and everyone wants to be the first, and you gotta
Yeah.
help them because they're the most important person. And obviously, you being in a service department, obviously you gotta be cordial and you gotta be able to reassure people, and people kind of get fed up that everyone use the same monotonous, in a way, disclaimer. We're doing everything in our power to get the situation under control. As soon as we get a solution, we're not gonna send a notification. You know, all the cordiality. And
Was that exactly what you said?
I'm paraphrasing, but
Okay.
obviously it's kind of along those lines.
It
Obviously,
sounded really good. It
no, I've been doing this for a long time, man.
I mean, it sounded like I was about to say, yo, oh, okay, thank you very much for that information, sir.
It's one of those things that kind of with time it gets ingrained in you. I don't know. Do you have like a go-to when you gotta tell someone, please, I'm gonna be right with you, but not telling them no, I cannot be with you right now?
Yeah, I probably have some go-to phrases that mean a couple different things. A couple different things. Now, I got lucky in the fact that I have actually never had the pleasure of working help desk. My first IT
I,
gig
I
out
don't
of college.
I don't
Oh,
know
go ahead.
I don't know if you call it a pleasure, but go ahead.
No, yeah, it's exactly. So my first job out of college, I was able to land a desktop support role. So I kind of skipped over the help. I never worked help desk. So I went right into the field as far as working on desktop uh, support directly with the customers. So to me, I think I'm lucky, but I've never had that experience, and as I never got beat up, from working the phones like you did. That's not fun. You're limited in what you're able to do. You're limited to what you're able to allowed to do,
Or say,
and or say exactly. And you have people, you have 100 people calling you for the exact same problem in certain circumstances, like the one you just described. Yeah, and it's like, okay, yeah, we know it's down. We know it's down. We're working on it, like you said. So yeah, it's tough. It's definitely tough. So you're the first line of defense, and that's not fun. So
and
I
oh, sorry.
I was gonna say I consider myself lucky.
I mean, in the way that I see it after having that experience, and I'm thankful that I had that experience. Don't get me wrong.
Sure.
It is that I was able to comprehend better, obviously, along the way when I started evolving within the profession and obviously getting a higher position eventually within the years. Being meaningful and tactful to the people that are there in the front lines, like you just said, like getting beat up by everyone while you are an engineer and you're trying to figure out what the hell happened with the server or the network connection or whatever you're dealing with. Like you're thankful for that because you know what they're getting exposed to.
Yeah.
I do remember one time though that while I was working for this company, working help desk, it was one of those situations. Everyone was running around and everyone in high alert. Like my supervisor, her director, her manager, and everyone that you could call in between were kind of trying to figure out what was going on. We were on cubicles, like very close to each other, and they were in a particular cubicle, like everyone surrounded there. And it was one of those days, I believe, that I was covering actually the first shift. They put me from the second shift on the first shift, so I went in early, and it was close to the time of me leaving when this thing is happening. And my supervisor looks at me while that's going on, and with a smile, she says, "Hey, Alan, do you believe that you could stay longer while this situation is going on?" I'm like in this situation that it's not only my supervisor, her supervisor, and the manager and the director, and I don't even know if the CIO was there or something. You know, there were a lot of VPs there, and it's like, do you think that I'm in the position to say, no, I'm leaving right now with all these people? I mean, I don't know whether she did it consciously or not, but I mean, she was a very nice person, but God damn, man, I'm remembering because I'm like looking to my right and see everyone like looking in like with piercing gazes in my direction. And I'm like, yeah, sure. I can stay 10 hours more. Don't worry about it. Don't worry. And I just went ahead, instead of clicking the button to leave, I was like taking the next call. Hey, obviously the company, good afternoon. How can I help you? And you know, the standard, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
That's rough.
that was one of my first experiences, like staying overtime that I remember. For IT, and anyone that's working IT know that overtime is kind of on the small print for whatever you're signing for.
Yeah, that's well, yeah, and that's just it. You don't really get any benefits for overtime, so it's kind of just expected when it comes to IT stuff. That's one of the disadvantages of it. I remember when I first, I have a funny story. When I first started, it's not technically IT related. It was just more of a me related story. That so I was working out actually. I worked for one of the airlines, and I was working at the actual airport. We had to park our cars into a specific lot for employees, and then a bus would come to pick us up and bring us over to the terminal, and then from there we would walk over to wherever we needed to go. So my office was above one of the terminals, or it was upstairs in one of the terminals, I should say. And I was new. I was working nights, so I was working a 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. shift. And I think I had only been there for maybe like a week or two. I was still really green. I was really nervous. I was, it was just one of those things. And I'm walking. I parked the car and I'm walking to the bus, and I stepped in this big ass puddle of water in one of my shoes. I mean, soaked. And I'm like, oh, what do I do? What do I do now? I can't get in my car, go home, put a new shoe on, and it's night, nobody's around. I'm the only one on shift. I've only been here for a week, so I rolled with it, man. And the whole night I'm sitting there with a wet shoe.
Man, I didn't know about
all 12 hours.
Oh, it was a long shift as well.
All 12 hours with a wet shoe.
Man, but it was a late shift, no?
Yeah, 6 p.m. to 6 a.m.
Weren't you able like to take out the shoe and vent the
Oh,
thought, you know?
I did.
Okay, yeah, I was
I
gonna say,
did.
man, if you're on the late shift, like there are not that many people. Maybe obviously
No, no.
the camera is gonna record you, but whatever, man, you can, I don't know, under the desk, get out the
Eh,
shoe and hang the sock.
No, yeah. I kind of, I had, and of course, I didn't. I was only there for a very short period of time, so I really didn't know anybody. I'm riding solo, so and I didn't know any of the users, so I was just kind of keeping to myself and whatnot. So that was pretty funny, and I mean, my second night on shift, so I worked 6 p.m. to 6 a.m., 12 hours overnight. My second night, I was getting trained by one of the other guys. On my second night of that shift, the guy that was training me said, "Hey, gonna be going to a party. If you have any problems, go ahead and page me." So I am now in a situation where I'm by myself on my second night in an environment that I know nothing about. My first enterprise gig, and the way it was set up was we had like a little office, and then the people there was a hallway that went into the actual room where all the users and stuff were. So again, airlines working overnight, so this was mission critical stuff. And I just remembered a whole night. Every time somebody will walk past our office, I would I would be like, please don't come in here. Please don't come in here with a problem. Please don't come in here with a problem.
You were very devout at that point.
I really was, and it was one of those things where looking back at it could, yeah, I was probably ticked off back then, but it probably was one of the best things that happened to me early on in my career because of that it kind of gave me confidence to not really be scared of situations like that in the future just because I didn't have any. There was no crutch. We're also talking back in it was '99, so we
Mm.
had pagers. We had we had cell phones, but they weren't super common. So it wasn't like today
To
where
today, yeah.
yeah, where it was much easier to get a hold of somebody. You could shoot them a text or they can whatever. No, it was I literally felt like I had nobody to ask to help. I was on my own, and I don't remember if there was any issues that night. I don't think there was, but it wasn't a fun night. But I look back on it fondly only because it gave me some additional confidence to be able to handle like nowadays. Something comes up. It's like, hey, this is broken, and it's something I've never seen before. I'm like, yeah, okay, I'll fix it. I'll figure it out. And I always look back at that night as what kind of jump started that attitude.
So on that job, you got your feet wet twice.
I got my feet wet twice. Yes, literally and figuratively.
Man, that out of itself tells you a lot about people going into the profession itself. When you get into a company, I cannot vouch for all companies, and definitely you and I had the same experience on the job that we had together, fortunately. But aside from that one, aside from the management that we had and the team that we had, I can say that other jobs that I've been in, they barely train you for what you're getting into, aside from the knowledge that you have, like your technical experience or your analytical disposition or being hungry to kind of go in and kind of get invested with the technologies, learn about them and all that.
Yep.
Very few companies really train you on the spot. They expect you to come already with the knowledge. I don't know whether because they think it's a given that there's already the talent out there and they already know their environment and they know all the little things about their configurations and their Active Directory, how it was set up, or
Yeah.
the Exchange, all the rules, all the little things that even though you can know the technical aspect of it, the little things when are put together really make each environment their own. More so, one can be more of a mess than another.
Yep.
Like I said, the experience that you and I both had when we went into the job that we were working together, we had the fortune to have like a period of sitting down, seeing the technologies, getting the exposure, getting making questions. I think that was a very good team building exercise that I haven't seen in other places, unfortunately.
I haven't either, and I will definitely say that where we worked, and you were there before I started, so you were involved with the training process when I got came on board. So I definitely give you and management and the other team members a lot of credit because it was definitely the best training. It was what did we do, like a week or so of just kind of sitting in that conference room and get going over everything. I thought it was probably the best I've ever seen as far as doing any kind of training for a new employee that just came on board because usually you there's usually no real structure to it. You come on board and then it's like, okay, well, sit with this guy for a day. The guy you're sitting with doesn't want you sitting there. I know because I've been that guy.
Yeah.
I don't want this guy sitting there. So it's tough. Yeah, so it's definitely tough. I think from a company standpoint, they don't necessarily understand all the time that yes, the technology is the same across the board. It's universal. Windows Server 2019, whatever, is the same operating system across the board. However, the way it's implemented can be completely different in different environments, and the way different environments are set up, and there's all so many different aspects to how an environment is set up that yeah, you might know the technology but you don't know the intricacies of that company and how everything is set up, not to mention policies and procedures are always different at every company. So it's you want somebody to come in and hit the ground running, but it's also difficult to hit the ground running in a brand new place because you're so used to either your last environment or other environments that you've worked in the past.
I don't know. I might be overthinking this, but me thinking about it, obviously, if the common knowledge or highly regarded that people that are, for example, in the at engineering level, are decently paid, if not very well paid, depending on the company and all your certifications, background, experience, you name it.
Decently, I'd say decently.
And I will say, in the job that I've been, aside from that one, there has been little to almost none training, but other job positions that I've been, obviously, other jobs that not only in IT, obviously, I've worked in supermarkets, like picking up trash, on construction, on other lieu of other things that I've done all my life. They have given me more training to do those things.
Yeah.
And I don't know whether I'm saying this incorrectly. I'm just kind of going to the realization as we're talking now that those things are either more menial or hands-on. People usually, obviously not the case. I don't know how things are nowadays, but back when I was growing up and picking up like small jobs to get by, it was sort of the experience that I went to a place and they, okay, so you got this machine and you got to treat it this way. And when you're doing this job, you got to press these buttons. And if you hear this sound, you do this. And, they kind of went
Yep.
more into detail in that regard.
I think the reason for that is a lot of the times in IT there is not something that is so consistent that you can explain to somebody
Make a
when it is.
a Chromebook or a knowledge base.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean you can, especially for consistent problems, but how many times I've been doing this for what 20 years. Almost every day I see something I've never seen before. So it's one of those things where unless you have something that you can literally show somebody that this is what you do when this happens every day, it can be a difficult task because you might see a problem two times and then you never see it again. It's and typically in IT, if you see something that's happening over and over again, you're not expected to just do that task over and over again. You're either expected to, if it's a task, automate it, or if it's a problem, fix it.
Fix it, yeah. It's funny
So
that
it's tough.
it's funny that you're talking about obviously seeing stuff that every day that you don't know.
Yeah.
Some of my early jobs on IT, talking about learning technology on the go, obviously not knowing about it. One time, I was supposed to look for a communications equipment. I believe it was like a switch.
Right.
It was for a company that had like other companies with their equipment because of the logistics that were going on in that company. I was on the phone with the guy from here, the US, and he was telling me about finding the equipment, getting in front of it, and doing some sort of manual troubleshooting. When I was, the, it was on a warehouse. I'm trying to be very vague, you know. Some people that know me already know most likely the story, but whatever. The switch was on the warehouse for this company, and the communication equipment was on this like small enclosed office within the warehouse. I was looking for it, and I was following like the cables through the steel beams on the warehouse. And I'm like,
Okay.
oh, okay, so the communication equipment is there. I put up a ladder to the side of this like small closed office within the warehouse to my impetus of kind of I'm with the guy on the phone, like getting like hurrying this up and kind of getting the job done efficiently and fast as possible. I put the
Yeah.
ladder beside the building. I put my foot on the roof of the enclosed office, and I swear to you, that roof looked like wood from the top. It was actually this foam, like
Uh-oh.
you know, the foam that they put for the ceilings on the offices to uh,
Yeah.
so yeah, it was that. So with my back then, I don't know, 200 and so pounds, I don't know, 8 or I don't know how much I was weighing back then. You can be sure that I started falling through the roof,
Oh.
and I don't know how, but I reacted to being falling to be grappling from the steel beam that was close to me. And from there, I was walking through the border of the enclosed office and getting back to the ladder. And the guy on the phone, it was a three-way call. It was with the guy and a manager that was precisely below where I was falling. And below me, there was like a table, a paper shredder, and some other stuff. And then a bit more to the right was her. And obviously, when everything started falling and the sound, she screams and it's like looking up and sees me, and she had like a small heart attack. And the guy on the phone from the US heard the commotion and, hey, everything okay? And she on the other line on the phone is like, there's raining men. Obviously, she didn't say it like that, but obviously I was falling from the roof. And man, you can be sure that the guy from the security system saw it. Everyone that was in the area heard it, and obviously the word of mouth spread very fast.
Oh, sure.
Obviously, luckily, I didn't get like a suspension or anything major aside from, hey, be more careful with what you're doing, you know? But I swear to you, that roof looked like solid wood when I was walking at it. But by the end of the day, the time that I was in that company, while I was working on the warehouse, people would look at my way, hey, Spider-Man, what's up? Or hey, oh man, how would be the word in English? Like the gymnast, you know, kind of a deal. Like acrobata.
Oh,
In Spanish, it
yeah.
would be like acrobata. What's up, man? And that thing still pursues me to this day. And each time that I meet with some friends from that job or have a light conversation, either they remind me that I'm Spider-Man, or obviously how diligent I was to getting the job done, no matter the cost.
That's it. That's it. You went right to the problem. I mean, she was expecting the situation to get fixed right away, and you went right through the roof just to get to it.
I mean, if another situation, if obviously looking back, if I was able to say, "Oh yeah," it would have been like the cherry on top, like going through the roof.
That would have been perfect. Now, if there's anybody that's listening and knows this story and has access to the security footage, please send this footage in because it is something I need to see. I need to see this. So
I
please.
I don't know if it's been a few years already. I don't know if they saved that so far back, but
I would have saved it. That would have been. I would have saved it, backed it up on multiple, devices. It would have been in the cloud now. Yeah.
yeah, there will be definitely one of those meme moments on YouTube or whatever. But
Oh yeah.
I know.
No.
So those are one of the stories that I hold very dear to my heart. Obviously, looking back is one thing, while it's different when you're going through it. But it's one of those things that you're trying to go above and beyond for what you're doing, and well, learning how to do things on the go.
Oh yeah.
So
Yeah, it's one of those things that you're constantly learning.
I didn't get my feet wet, but
Oh well, you got your feet something, that's for sure.
oh man.
That was not that. Yeah, I guess mine was pretty minor compared to falling through the ceiling. I just stepped in a puddle of water. I was upset about that. But yeah, that's quite a story. I'm trying to think if I had any stories that were similar to that. I'm not coming up with anything
Oh,
like that.
it's up there in the charts.
It's up there. That's a great. I mean, that's a great one. I would never let you live that down. I would still be cracking up. Yeah, that's amazing. That's a great story. Now they had to go up and repair all that crap, right?
Oh yeah, it was pretty simple. Obviously, the communication equipment wasn't damaged or anything. It was just that part of the roof that
That's
they needed to
perfect.
replace the phones and their sheep. And obviously, I didn't damage anything. I think, aside from my reputation and dignity, but
Right, and you didn't get hurt.
no. Well, emotionally maybe back then, but
Well, that's great. I remember. Oh, go ahead.
oh no, you go ahead. Sorry, I was.
I was gonna say I remember when I was I was still in desktop support at the time. I worked on a team of it was one, two, three, four people up, and we had our own little office, and it was really cool because we had our own office. It was a door lock, badge swipe, had to to get in. So we were on our own, and it was pretty nice. But I remember one of the guys that I worked with up there. He was he was getting fed up with email. He kept getting emails from people, and I mean, and this is in 2000 early 2000s. So I mean, email it. It's not like it was today where almost nobody does anything other than text, chat, email, blah blah blah. So he was just getting email, and all of a sudden he just yells out. He's like, "Doesn't anybody freaking pick up the phone and call anymore? It's just email, email, email. Nobody wants to talk. Nobody picks up the phone." And he starts ranting. So while he's ranting, I quietly went and grabbed my phone and dialed his extension. So mid rant, he's ranting about somebody. People don't call him, and his phone starts ringing, and he picks up the phone, and he's all fired up, and he says, "IT, this is," and he says his name. What can I do for you? And I just go, "Hey, dude, what's going on?" And everybody just started laughing. It was so great because he didn't know I was calling him. So yeah, it was funny.
That definitely was a way to calm him down. Like, did he actually laugh out of
Oh,
it?
yeah, he laughed. He was cracking up hardcore. Yeah, it was perfect. It was great. Yeah, it was one of those things that was just fun. I like to do that stuff, kind of lighten the mood a little bit. But it was pretty funny.
I think I can definitely say that's sort of people skills that you acquire while you're in this profession are vital.
Yeah.
Like you cannot be quite honestly like a dry person. Either you're working directly with people or with just peers in engineering or in IT in general. It's funny. You cannot be too friendly, but you cannot be too close because if you're too friendly, everyone goes to you when they have a problem, and you get overburdened if you don't know how to say no politely.
Sure.
And if you're too close, obviously you're not a team player, or you come off as a douche, or a very cold person, and
Yeah.
it's
It's
kind of like
definitely a bit of a balancing act.
yeah, it's knowing where to read the room, release tension, being like concentrating on what you're working on. Ah, man, if
You
working
also, yeah, you
work,
kind of have to know how to bullshit a little bit too.
working in IT is a joy, but also it comes with so many attachments that you gotta be willing to go all in. And you could say other people, "Oh man, you're privileged. You're working on an office or from your home or whatever." It's like, yeah, I mean, like I said before, I worked on construction. I worked in picking up trash. I done quite a lot of things, and I know what it's been from all sides. And obviously, grass is always gonna look greener on the other side. Like the things that you gotta give in exchange for another, unfortunately. But I would say that not only IT, I would say in general, people nowadays are in that mentality that I need a job, obviously to pay my bills, and from there be able to realize things that are for myself. And that kind of a mentality has been, I don't know whether negatively pinned down either by psychologists or studies as the whole movement of quiet quitting. Like
Yeah.
people being on the office, like just giving the minimum effort to get by and not going above and beyond and jumping from roof and jumping on top of people to get the job done.
Hey, not
Um,
everybody wants to go through a roof.
yeah, but aside from that, I on my previous job, I definitely felt that I was in that mindset that I'm just buying my time. Like I obviously the place didn't feel like it needed me to give 100% because they didn't respect me. Um,
Right.
Whether the culture had a mindset, whether the intricacies of all the people that have gone by the previous role. You know how there in some places, additionally, that there are stigmas. They either create a stigma of, oh, the people that work on network, oh, the people that work on security, oh, the people that work on systems, or oh, the
Yep.
people that work in databases. And that kind of a precedent was set by the people that were in the prior role. And even though we were different individuals working on that role, that same stigma was kind of carrying on. It's tough when you're on a place and you're trying to learn the environment and do your job, but you're not treated just with the bare minimum of decency or respect, or your
Yeah.
opinions are disregarded, or you being the person with the knowledge, being able to give an educated assertion of whatever the situation problem is. And you got all the fault, but none of the benefit or rewards or recognition for it.
Yep.
And it really wears you down. Like obviously, you're not expecting to have your like a pat on the head or on your back all the time that you do something, but man, don't treat your people right, and they are not gonna be on the mindset that I'm just here for the money, and after my hours, I'm gone.
Exactly. And like you said, it sometimes, I don't necessarily expect, I don't, or need to be praised, or congratulated on certain things, but it's crazy how sometimes people, people, companies, or whatever, don't really understand that just a simple thank you goes a long way sometimes. Just to know that somebody actually appreciated what you did, what you've accomplished, or whatever. It makes a difference. I've seen it in the past. I've dealt with it in the past, so it definitely makes a difference. Just a little bit of, just treating people genuinely with respect, like you said. So, and I actually just recently read about that term that you mentioned, quiet quitting, before, and it to me it's a terrible term, first of all. it doesn't make any sense at all. Quiet quitting is it's literally just doing your job. I don't really understand that. So it's one thing for people to just do bare minimum. It's another thing that to do your job, do it well, but not go quote unquote above and beyond or work all kinds of crazy overtime hours for for literally no reason other than just because you can. And I just don't think that companies should. It's tough. A part of me wants to say that they shouldn't reward people for going above and beyond, but that wouldn't be right either. But I don't think you should necessarily look at that person in better or different light versus somebody who just wants to do their job and within their window of within their schedule and obvious and do it well, but they don't necessarily want to or need to go above and beyond and do all this extra stuff. Some people don't want to do that, and I honestly think that you would find either less of that or more people willing to do that if the work week was balanced better. Working 5 days a week and only off for two, you're spending.
If
Go ahead.
If you're working in IT, most likely you're working 6 or 7 days. But okay.
Exactly. So, and then you're spending your typical 8 hour day, and again, like you said, with IT, that typically, or not typically, but it can on a lot of occasions can grow into 10-12 hour days depending on what's going on. There's give and take when it comes to IT, but just in general, if you just look at the flat out work week in general, from working 40 hours, some arbitrary number, to 8 hour day, again an arbitrary number, and then 5 days a week and only having two off, where's the balance? Why is it not more evened out to the point where even if you wanted to keep the same 8 hours a day, make it 4 days and then have 3 days off? At least you get a little bit more balance there. So you don't necessarily feel like you're literally living for your job or living at your job, or just working all the time.
Yeah, you work to live or you live to work, kind of.
Exactly. That's exactly right. And don't get me wrong. And you brought up the point earlier as far as that saying of if you love what you do, you never work a day in your life. Which okay, that's it's a fun saying, but let's be honest, how many people out there can really follow that saying?
Mm-hmm.
You need a break. Even if you enjoy what you're doing, and it's still work, right. So I would be willing to bet that the majority of people out there who, if they didn't have to work, they probably wouldn't. There will be people that will and do because they enjoy it, and that's cool. But I would be willing to bet that that's not the norm.
It's like all the truth in life, obviously, the diversity in mindset, but also you gotta remember, at least in the socioeconomically climate that we're living in and the commodities that we got available to the times that, at the time of this recording, we're exposed ourselves to, there's a very high demand to get instant gratification at all levels. Like, if something has been permeating at all facets of your life, either consciously or unconsciously, like you order your dash door or your Uber Eats and you want it to be done and soon and arrive at your door, or you're browsing your Amazon and you're ordering your products and you want them to arrive next day because obviously you're paying extra for the Prime, and all of that comes at the expense of someone doing that work. And when you start sitting back and realizing how it's multifaceted into your daily life, we obviously have the viewpoint from working in IT, for example, oh, we need all these services and all these servers to be deployed by this time, and we need to implement this application and do an API integration and do all the with this format, and we need to do all these configurations and setup for this application, and we need to test it before the end of the week or before the end of the quarter, and you gotta realize, oh well, how can I optimize it? How can I do it faster? I have to invest more time to do it faster because they want it before a certain period, and little by little, you you notice how even on the workplace, people want to be instantly gratified.
Oh yeah.
No matter how far you go and do like a project plan and how you do crunch that time. Well, most likely you gotta work extra hours to get that done within the time frame that they want. If we didn't reach the goal, why did we didn't reach our goal? Well, usually it's not the fault of oh, it's not the fault that we didn't assign the time. It's just that the employee didn't invest more the time to get the job done. And don't get me wrong, obviously that's not the same in every place, but you kind of see a tendency of that happening. I can for certainly say, without naming any names, I do remember some people like doing the project planning for particular jobs, and it was rather unrealistic with the resources at hand. Like you only have one developer and they have like multiple integrations that they needed to do a particular time. I wasn't part of that team, but being in the same department, I knew what was going on.
Sure.
And they needed to do miracles to be able to get the things done, but the company didn't want to invest in an additional developer. Lo and behold, you get the resources that you have and you exploit them. And it might sound a bit paranoid from my part, but it almost feels like companies. I studied business administration and I know everything about like optimization and creating like a utilitarian table and seeing how you optimize. Everything is about optimizing, but we optimize the work, but we go back on the quality of life that we get, the resources that actually get the work done.
Correct. Yeah, that's the rub of it there, and it's a shame. And like I said, there's some people that really enjoy that stuff, and there's a lot of people that don't. And there's good people that don't necessarily want to live it, and you know, it's tough. Now, I wanted to ask you though, what from an IT perspective, what was one of the top things that you really enjoyed about IT work?
The I would say multiple. I like putting one above the other. I couldn't, but I'm thinking back in the day when I really enjoy being engaged with it, like having the direct. Funny enough, having the direct contact with people, like working with different departments and kind of working in that sort of integrations of me comprehending what they needed and me coming with a like a proposal or a solution for the problem that they needed,
Yep.
from the most menial thing to the most complex project that took multiple months, and not only being able to achieve it but learning something new. It felt good within the bounds that I was able to vest myself to it and not getting distracted by other things. But obviously, that's being idealistic. Obviously, you're always getting distracted by things while you're working in IT.
Sure.
But definitely that sort of interacting with people and learning stuff. And funny enough, I like doing that within the confines of my work time. Outside of that, not so much.
Yep.
So I don't know if I had the wrong mindset or obviously I'm not coming up with the times, but definitely I would say that.
Okay. Yeah, no, that makes sense. I mean, I always really enjoy. It's funny because I if you ask me what position in my career, I did desktop support and I've gone up to do the server administration and server infrastructure engineering stuff. Where, did I have probably the most fun? What did I enjoy the most? I would probably say desktop support. Um,
Yeah.
it was because I think for a few reasons. One, you don't have as much of that weight on your shoulders as far as the entire, company literally at times having an issue. versus just this person has a problem with their computer. So that is a little bit more, obviously stressful. There's also benefits to that, and it's also rewarding when you're able to, um, resolve or avoid a potential issue when it's a huge thing. But just I, I always enjoyed, and it's funny coming from me because I'm not a big people person. You go, you walk me into a restaurant or a fast food joint, and you have the option to order on this tablet or go and talk to somebody and order. I'm going to the tablet every time. I don't want to talk to anybody. But that being said, for some reason, when I was doing desktop support, I kind of enjoyed just working with everybody, working with the people. Don't get me wrong. There's still people that were a pain in the ass. There's people that were awesome.
That's at all levels.
Yeah, and that exactly. It's unavoidable. There was people that I would see a ticket come from that I would do everything in my power to not do anything.
Miss, dodge,
Yeah,
dodge.
exactly. And I still end up having to do it. But yeah, I enjoyed that. I enjoyed the just that aspect, not only just from the fact of like someone coming to me with a problem and I was able to resolve the problem and they're happy that I resolved the problem, but also you develop a lot of relationships with people.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. So that I really enjoyed, and sometimes I just like going out onto the floor and shooting the shit with people and having a good time. And even though a lot of times that would end up me causing work for me because you know just as well as anybody that there's the IT guy all of a sudden.
Yeah, and I say, as I mentioned earlier, but that's what I mean. I had to choose one, but definitely when I was working desktop support as well, that's definitely the getting to talk to people, and not only you doing whatever needed, like replacing a motherboard or whatever, technical stuff or troubleshooting on
Sure.
the operating system. Like, it usually was the case that you were troubleshooting and the person will be standing beside you and you were just talking,
Yeah.
getting to know each other. And obviously, the joy in that is that while you're working, you're doing something that takes your mind in a way from what you're doing. I don't know if I'm explaining myself properly, but you're kind of delving into the daily of what that person does, whether they work in accounting or marketing
Yeah.
or whatever, and you get more invested in what they're doing. And I'm really, how do you do that? You kind of exchange information, and again, it's a joy, like working and taking that responsibility. And I don't want it to come across either by you or me that, oh man, these people are just whining and arguing about how basically work life is. But at the same time, it is this sort of a sense that everyone likes to get empowered by having the responsibility to be able to meet up to the challenges that are presented to them. But you don't want the responsibility of just having to worry that you're, by the nature of the beast, dealing with things that something goes off, especially in technology, and half of the company goes down, nothing works. Like, the susceptibility of the job itself is stressing enough as it is. That's why I don't want it to sound like we're shying away from taking that responsibility, because we have done it also many times before. But
Yep.
you just get tired of everything going down all the time, and you say,
Yeah.
well, in what sort of company you're working in, man, there's not a single IT company, IT company or IT department that can say that they haven't been massively either exposed by a major hack. Like recently, I believe what it was, Rockstar with the Grand Theft Auto 6 leak.
Yeah. Yep.
Uh,
Yep.
or another leak by another, but it wasn't not so much with infringement on NDA. Someone revealed something about one of the Blizzard Activision games and all that. Like, even SolarWinds had many exposures in the past. Amazon has been down before. Google have
Yep.
had issues before. Microsoft, when you
Of course.
start seeing, obviously all major companies have had issues before. Maybe one more so than others, and things that people usually don't know what happens when you're working in IT. Obviously, something goes down, and maybe it's not perceptible because the company doesn't go down, but you know that you gotta tackle the situation before it becomes something major, sort of a deal. And obviously, you're carrying. It's not that you're not willing to carry the responsibility; it's that the responsibility is with you 24/7, and
Yeah.
it's really
It can get to you
it
sometimes.
can get to you. Obviously, this is IT. No, no, no. It can be
Yeah.
any other job as well that shares the same amount of responsibility. Say, information that gotta be regarded in some lawyer's office, or
Yeah.
say the money that gotta be kept safe when you're closing at the end of the day on a credit union or a bank or whatever. All the stress of that money being close by, someone can come with a gun, and that there's a lot of stressful situations of people out there exposing themselves, people
Big time.
working in the emergency room. Like, if there's a beauty to work, but also it's just that how much of you throw yourself at it or you're thrown into it, and how do you choose your battles and how do you fight them?
Yeah, exactly, and it takes a lot of practice and experience to kind of learn how to pick your battles and things of that nature. And don't get me wrong. It's there's such a great feeling when you're able to resolve a big issue or even a small issue, especially if it's something that you've been struggling with. And there's something that's going on, you don't know what's going on, and you're able to dig into it, figure it out, and resolve it. Man, it's a great feeling, and it's very rewarding. But then it's tough also sometimes too, from the flip side of they a lot of times people, whether it be users, management, whatever, they expect, oh, you're the IT guy, this is broken, so you should know how to fix it. And it might be something you've never seen before, but you're still expected to know how to fix it. And that's tough sometimes because it's like they're looking at you to be able to fix this, and you're like, I have no idea how to fix it. So you have no choice but to try to figure out
I
what
I
what to do.
I wonder. I believe this is the same in medicine. Like,
It
you
is,
you
yeah.
you could be a doctor with many years of experience, but with so many conditions
I,
or things that you are faced with every day, you gotta go back to your books and search. Okay, what happens when the larynx is inflated to a certain
yep.
extent, or what the person have a perturbation in certain part of their body? What does that mean? Do we need to intervene? Do we do a biopsy? Would it be lethal? That all the sort of things that I always liked making the comparison between technology and medicine, obviously because
Yeah.
I had some close relatives that work in medicine, and when we talk, we kind of can relate to some extent. Obviously, I tip my hat all at any point
I
and any day of the job that doctors, nurses do. Like, I cannot simply give enough praise to them, but I kind of comprehend what they do.
Yep.
Like having that feeling of if you change the IP reservation, or change the scope, or change the attributes for an OU, or all the things that you gotta be mindful when you're doing an implementation, a group policy, or something on the like. Like,
Yep.
how are you making that operation? You gotta be conscious of the repercussions on the scalability and the repercussions. Again, it's kind of always in the back of your head. What happens if I do this? And you gotta know your stuff, but also you gotta look it up sometimes, because it's not always gonna be on the top of your head, because you don't do that maybe every day, given the exposure of technologies that you're exposed to.
It's funny that you mentioned that because I was actually going to bring up the comparison between IT and medicine as well, but I was almost afraid to because I didn't want people to think or get the wrong idea that I was going to be comparing
Oh,
IT
no, no,
to,
no,
you
no!
know what I mean?
That's why
Yeah.
that's what I say. in no way I will compare what I do to a doctor. No, don't get me wrong. No,
I,
no, never, never, never.
and I agree 1,000,000%. But you're definitely right in the aspect of there are things that are similar in what we do because sometimes there could be an issue that like I've mentioned a couple of times already that we've never seen before. The same is going to go for in the world of medicine as well. There's going to be things that they've never seen before. There's going to be things that they don't understand why this is doing what it's doing. Obviously the difference is you're working with a system versus somebody's
A patient.
potential life, right? But yeah, you're right. It does translate from, and I don't want to use the word troubleshooting standpoint because I don't think that what doctors do is troubleshooting.
Don't get me wrong. While there are good
But
doctors, there's also bad doctors, and there are doctors that troubleshoot with you. Oh,
well, yeah,
take some aspirin. Oh, some antibiotics. Oh, rest for a while. Oh, just do some tea or whatever. And like,
yeah,
there are some doctors that actually troubleshoot with you.
yeah. It's true, and you know what? It's a crapshoot sometimes, I think I understand that more because I understand it from an IT aspect, so I can definitely relate to what they're having to deal with on a completely different level. But there's probably people out there that aren't able to relate in that fashion, thinking, "Well, you're the doctor; you're supposed to know why this is happening."
Hmm.
In the same exact fashion that there's people out there that look at us and go, "This is broken. You're the IT guy. You should know why this is happening."
I mean, it
So,
might be a
yeah,
bit, it might be a bit on your face, but heck, we deal with viruses as well.
we do. Yeah, and I honestly I hate the term viruses because
Yeah.
it's not really a virus because it's man made. But yeah, exactly.
I mean,
So
but yeah, it kind of behaves on the same like invades,
correct. Yeah,
changes things around, and
yeah. It does.
makes the whatever the patients or the system don't work properly.
Yeah, yeah. It's designed that way. But yeah, exactly.
Oh man, talking about viruses, have you dealt with a ransomware before?
I have not. No, luckily, and knock on wood that I don't
I
ever have to.
I don't wish it upon anyone. In one of the previous companies, I'm gonna keep it as vague as possible.
Okay.
There was someone in the marketing department that received one invoice, and that invoice obviously had a a malware and the spyware, and kind of started encrypting documents on their computer, and that kind of started populating the whole domain. Boy, oh boy, that was the longest, what, 28, almost 30 hours that I worked. Well,
Yeah.
there's another time that I worked more hours than that, but that time at least was a very long period of hours because not only it was kind of one of those compounded situations. We had a very old Exchange server. It was like 2003 Exchange
Okay.
local Exchange server. For those that don't know, the Exchange server is what manages mail within the company. Depending on the service that you're running, Exchange is one of the flavors. Um, it just so happens that we have like on top of it like a spam filter that was doing the gray listing, black listing, white listing of mail.
Sure.
And something happened either because it was an old server that was patched every so often. Obviously, it was not. It was. I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't remember it being patched
So when you say
monthly.
every so often, you mean never.
I gotta remember because I'm mixing with all the jobs that I've been. I don't remember. I'm starting to mix up like which server was patched more often than not. But aside from the details, kind of getting to the story,
Yeah.
it's more so that something happened in between the spam filtering of the application that we were paying for started basically allowing everything to go by. Either a cache got full, something happened, the connector with the Exchange server broke. Whatever was the case, we had documents that on the file share started getting encrypted, and obviously you see in the famous notepad on the desktop Like, hey,
Yep.
if you want to recover your documents, you gotta pay X amount of money before X
Mm.
time, or it's gonna keep increasing and all that. Obviously, we had to shut everything down and start going from backup recovery. Luckily, we were able to recover from backup most documents. The servers uh, were, especially the ERP. For those that don't know, I'm sorry, using technical terms. Enterprise resource planning application that we use for the company was the biggest fear that maybe some of the databases or documents got like hacked or whatever. Or locally,
Mm.
nothing of that happened. Or if it did happen, they make a very good backdoor, and it wasn't exploited by the time that I was there after that incident. So just to make
Right.
that clear, um, hopefully they don't. Oh, the guy is listening to the podcast now. Oh, let's go. We left that back door. Let's go.
We forgot about that
We
one.
forgot about that one. We got a mine of gold. No, obviously, yeah. So it was a reactive situation that luckily by that time we were already on talks with Microsoft to migrating to Exchange Online to
Okay.
O365. So we were jumping from a 2003 version to keep it as vague as possible the year that we were migrating to Exchange Online. It was a rather big jump because there were like one or two versions that were already out for Exchange by
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
time. And we needed to go through all the computers, and we didn't have like a desktop managing tool like FCCM or any of the other flavors that you got nowadays. We needed
Sure.
to go by each individual computer and make the update for the Outlook client or make the
Oh,
configuration.
fun. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's a lot of fun.
that's a lot of fun, and you gotta take into consideration being in IT as it is, and you know this, and anyone listening to this might know. Any given company, I still haven't met one. Most likely, you got that computer on the corner that is running an older operating system because they develop an application for X activity or whatever is happening on your company that it
Yep.
doesn't work unless they're using that application, and you cannot update that computer to a more recent operating system because it just so happened that it doesn't work, and the developer either no longer exists
Yep. Yep.
or having someone pushing someone for the company that developed that software to do the testing for a more recent operating system is a chore out of itself to have their developers kind of update the application to more recent builds. So we needed to
Yep.
do all the workarounds for those. And
Of course.
man, I really don't wish it upon anyone. And to be honest, I would say, while I was working in that company, we were lucky because we had other things happen as well. And most companies don't recover from things such as that. Either they go back many years,
Yeah. Or they pay.
or even going back a month or two in their transactions or files is detrimental to the activities because the backups obviously kind of are your one layer of protection that you have where it's not the all be all.
Yep.
And man, again, I don't wish it
I
upon
know.
anyone.
No, I am my. I think this is, especially in more recent times, this become a big burden and or concern from my standpoint when it comes to IT is that aspect of introducing now. Don't get me wrong, it wasn't like the hackers and viruses didn't exist, back when in late 99 and early 2000s they did, but it's like so dominant now that it's it's such a pain because our jobs are difficult enough as it is having to deal with the normal interactions between the systems, getting them all to communicate, getting them all to work, eliminating issues, fixing problems. But now you're introducing a another aspect from outside that's literally just a flat out nefarious person or group that's causing a problem that now I have to deal with as well. That's so annoying. It's just like it's annoying because so it's not something I don't want to deal with that crap. I got enough to deal with now. I don't want to have to worry about ransomware and all that other good stuff too. So it's yeah.
I mean, all the news that have come nowadays of people making money just out of that. They made it their profession, like making money out of hacking or sharing
I know
information.
it's terrible. It's disgusting, and it's yeah. They're not helping anybody except themselves. That's for
Themselves.
sure.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
information. Quality information is money. Like it's the heart of any given enterprise
yeah,
company or you
yeah.
name it.
Yep. And you just hope that the security aspects of, not the security aspects, but the tracking of being able to catch these people doing it gets better and better. But it's one of those situations where like water leaking on a ship, right? You patch up one hole, and another three is going to pop up. So it is what it is, I guess, as one of our famous coworkers would say.
It is what it is. Inside joke. I gotta say, we were talking about the desktop support part of it being very rewarding and joyful, like talking with people, but also it's the most successful way to hack people, like
Yeah.
the social hacking, like they say.
Yep.
I obviously have some experience and of all in IT to some extent, I guess. Not to say that I'm a hacker or whatever. Obviously, I took some certifications, like whatever. It's not like I also shy away from talking about it because the times that I talk about it back in the day was, oh, I need you to hack the Facebook account for my boyfriend or
Like, yeah. No.
or stuff like that. And it's like, no, man, it doesn't work like that,
Right.
no,
Right.
like everyone says hacker, and the first thing that they see is a lot of numbers going down a screen. And I love how in movies they misrepresent that. They have like a command prompt open with they doing like a ping to 88.8.8.8, and it's like, oh, we're hacking them with multiple whatever though. And like, what?
I think my favorite ones. You remember Swordfish, that movie Swordfish?
Swordfish, yeah, Hugh
And
Jackman, yeah.
yeah, and it was like some weird graphical cubes and stuff all over the screen. He's just like matching them up like a puzzle. Like, what is that? And I always got a kick out of that.
I love it because the amount of processing that you need to have that graphical output.
It was so ridiculous, but it was such a fun movie though.
Yeah, I mean, obviously they're feeding you a lie and it's fantastical and you're enjoying it, but
Sure.
I bet it's the same for anyone in a particular profession. I think a lot of videos of like professional snipers rating a shot in a movie, and
Sure.
that shot is feasible, or that shot is no way. Like if they're shooting a train that is going more than 90 miles an hour, and they precisely know in what window the person is gonna be. They're gonna take into account the curvature of the earth,
Yes.
and talking about the how the wind is blowing, taking into account your position, your breathing, like. Yeah,
They can do it.
Yeah, they can do the shot now.
They can do it.
Yeah. Again, it's a joy working IT, but there are many stories that we could possibly keep talking until the day. I don't know. Do you have any story that you want to share? Like any day that you remember, man, this was the worst day of my life while working in IT.
Man, that's tough. Yesterday. No, I'm just kidding. No, no, no. I don't. Nothing's hitting me yet. I'm sure I'll think of something, in the future. It's also a little bit tough because there's probably stories that I'd like to tell
I
that
know.
I just can't.
I know.
Yeah, I think we've all kind of been in. I think a situation similar to what you dealt with, but on a different aspect was I had at one of my old jobs was we had a old server that was basically housed pretty much everything. Right? It was one of those. It was like real small
It
domain.
was an Active Directory, print server, file storage,
It was
everything.
everything, and it was
Database server.
yeah, and it was physical. Obviously, it was old. This virtual didn't exist at the time, and the server totally kicked the bucket, and they said no problem. We'll bring up the backup. Well, the backup kicked the bucket as well. So they had to rebuild it all from pretty much more or less from scratch, and trying they were still working on trying to get the backup. It was just one of those things. I was still early on in my career. I was still in desktop, so I really wasn't directly involved, but just watching all these people coming in and out, and managers and VPs and whatever standing around going, what the heck's going on? And I'm just a desktop peon, so I'm not going to say anything. I was still pretty green at the time, but I just remember that I worked, that 12-hour shift, and I went home, slept, got up, and came back into work for my next 12-hour shift, and the same people were still there working on it, and I was just like, man, oh man, that's that's one of those things. It's like, I think I've probably been in the situation as well where
We've been in that
now,
situation before.
yeah, now I'm the one now the other people are looking at it going, no, that poor sucker. Uh, but yeah, I remember that one quite vividly, only for the fact of being so new, and I was just like, oh shit, man, what the hell is going on? This is nuts. And so yeah, I mean, yeah, there's a lot. There's a lot of stories. There's a lot of fun stuff. There's a lot of funny stuff, and then there's a lot of stressful stuff when it comes to IT throughout the years. It has its goods and bads, just like everything else. I think it can definitely burn you out, though. I really do. And not that other careers or other professions, jobs, whatever you want to say, can't. But yeah, it's one of those things where it's tough to keep up. It's tough to try to learn everything, try to know everything, and sometimes it's tough to be the one on the spot. To everybody's looking at to they're all looking at you, and you need to be the one to get this thing up and going again, and that can be stressful sometimes.
That's why on the field we usually say, "Man, that guy was a rock star," because quite
Yeah,
literally, there's the situations that you're on the spotlight. Quite literally, you're on the stage, and either you flop or you put the
that's
performance
it.
of, or you the performance of your life. And when you do, yeah, that guy's a rock star. So
And there's no preparation for it. I mean, there you know what you know. And obviously your troubleshooting skills, I think they vary between different people and whatnot. I think I honestly believe that some people just have a knack for troubleshooting. Some people are good at it, some people are bad at it. I think you can teach troubleshooting to an extent, but I still think you need to have a natural ability, similar to the way that you can teach somebody to learn how to play the guitar, but are they going to be can you teach somebody to be Eddie Van Halen? So so you can do your preparations as much as you can, but 9 times out of 10, it's sink or swim. Just like you said, and hopefully you can swim.
and some people drown.
Some people drown.
I th-
I've seen people drown,
I'm
unfortunately.
not gonna say the name of the company either, but I think we can say the situation because I think the company either doesn't exist anymore or is in the way of not existing anymore. There was someone that did a backup of the virtual server, and that thing basically how they politely say they crap the bed. And a friend of ours, I remember being on the same room as him, and he was mad. He was fuming. He was livid. Like, how the hell does it go through your mind, like doing this, like now at this point, like they had like a snapshot of the server and a
Mm,
snapshot of the snapshot of the snapshot of the, and all that consolidation when it's going on, and for the
yeah.
main virtual server is like, oh man, for
Yep.
vCenter it's like,
I've seen that. Yeah.
yeah. So it's one of those things that either you know what you know or you mess up as you go.
Yeah. And honestly, I think there's a lot of times it's tough for people sometimes, and I think this could be expressed to anything, any profession, but particularly in IT, I always pay attention to it, and is you're going to mess up, you're going to make a mistake, you're going to do something that you shouldn't have done. Just own up to it. Just own up to it.
it's
It's no problem.
it's difficult because some companies may be more tolerant than others, definitely on that regard,
Sure.
and the profession as well. Like, you don't want the people that is changing your tires or dealing with your car to make a mistake because it probably can cost you your life.
Right.
Kind of a
Exactly.
kind of a situation like
Right.
you want him to go above and beyond at that point.
Sure.
Uh, so
That's just a different level.
yeah, but it's just
You
when
know.
you take into consideration like the professions that have the actual leeway for you to making those mistakes versus the ones that don't, and obviously everyone don't every manager and every company wants everything to be flawless and not having to deal with any
Sure.
problems.
Sure.
I mean, who likes
Yeah.
problems? To be honest.
Exactly, and I mean, and that's why you get, going back to your medicine reference, you get so much more respect for, the people in the medical profession because how many times have you sat there and looked and said, you know what, I don't know what's wrong with this, and I think this might fix it, but I'm not 100% sure. And if it does, great. If it doesn't, I'm not quite sure what's going to happen. But screw it. I'm going to go ahead and give it a shot anyways. That's all well and good in our field. But in the medicine field, you kind of can't do that, because you have to know the ramifications of it. Because either you're not just talking about a broken system and maybe a company losing money. You're talking about potentially having somebody in a life or death situation.
If not to keep drawing the comparison, but you know how there's peer reviews in medicine. I mean, we do it in a certain extent when we're discussing a situation or a problem. Like, you have a very good grasp by not only your knowledge and experience, but the research that you've done that something might work if you expose the system or the patient
Yeah,
to
yeah,
the situation at hand. But you always go to someone and kind of want them to pick your brain or your idea or kind of have a second pair of eyes. Hey, if this happens and we do this, what do you think? Because you want
yep,
to make sure that what happens is kind of you can scale or contain what you're doing within any given situation.
exactly. Well
Man,
said.
man, I think we could keep going on and on and on about it, but I think we gotta
Yeah,
we gotta we
we
gotta
could.
we gotta draw a line. And hey, we might come back another time with more IT stories, and believe me, there are quite a few.
I think we're gonna have to set up a part two of IT stories as because I'm sure I'll think of some more and hopefully some more funny ones. Those are to me are better than the.
And
Uh, uh,
do note, everything IT is funny after the fact, but
it is true.
while you're dealing with it, oh no 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 no.
You know what? There's been many times that I'm totally at my wit's end, and then after I get something resolved or finished or whatever, and I look back, it is kind of funny sometimes. It's especially funny if you're working on something and somebody falls through the roof.
That definitely is funny after the fact.
It is.
And the lady with their arms open and oh yeah, it's raining men. Oh man. So I got a trivia for you.
Oh, do you? Okay, great.
Yeah. No,
Am I supposed to answer this trivia, or is this a trivia for our listeners?
I got a for you and our listeners if they want to reply. Hey, leave your IT stories and your answers to this. And hey, I know everyone got Google, everyone can search it, but let's see how many people got it right.
Try to play it straight up.
So it might be a bit within just the topic of the episode, talking about computers. Do you know what's the best-selling computer to date? I might give you a hint. It's around the 1980s.
Yeah, I was going to take a guess, but I'm not sure if I should say or if we should wait for the next episode, or should I? You want me to try to answer this right now?
Oh no, we can wait for the next one and see if anyone kind of knows, and we'll start the next one with the answer.
Yeah, that sounds good. Okay. I'm gonna look it up right now. I'm just kidding.
How about, that's what I'm saying. Everyone can look it up. I mean,
Put your answers in the comments on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, whichever flavor is your favorite, and let us know. Let us know as well what you thought of our IT stories, and feel free to please share some IT stories with us as well, and I'm sure we'll enjoy them.
likely we'll do. Well, everyone, thank you for coming and listening to us, and we'll see you in the next one.